Gracias, Andrés. Y bueno, vamos a aprovechar porque la conferencia que viene a continuación, quien necesite equipo de traducción, está a la entrada del auditorio para que puedan solicitarlos, porque lo que viene, bueno, ya arrancamos con este segundo día y sé que también les va a gustar muchísimo. Se trata de el emprendimiento innovador, está siendo una fuente importante de financiación internacional a través del capital de riesgo. Colombia hoy es el tercer destino de Latinoamérica que más atrae esta inversión. En los últimos 2 años recibimos 20 billones de dólares en el capital de riesgo para emprendimientos innovadores. Con este contexto, le vamos a dar la bienvenida a nuestro próximo conferencista, Merijn Thije, quien nos acompañará con su conferencia Un futuro sostenible requiere emprendedores innovadores. Pero, ¿cómo podemos recaudar esa inversión de impacto para acelerar nuestras empresas? Para esta conferencia vamos a tomar todas sus preguntas vía Twitter con la etiqueta numeral Innovation Summit ANDI. Recuerden, numeral Innovation Summit ANDI. Y al final de la intervención de Merijn vamos a seleccionar 2 preguntas que serán resueltas en vivo. Así que aprovechen, disfruten de esta conferencia porque es con el patrocinio de Ventures con Fama. Bienvenido, Merijn.
Thank you.
Your name is Mona?
Oh, no. In this show business, I'm Monica.
Hola. I never understood why my parents gave me this name, Merijn Thije. They always pushed me to go abroad, and then they give me this name which is impossible to pronounce. I think she did a great job, actually. I feel humbled that I can stand here in front of you, and at the same time I feel ashamed because I'm going to do this presentation in English. And I lived in Colombia for 2 years, so I should be able to do this presentation in Spanish. So sorry. A sustainable future urges for innovative entrepreneurs. How can you raise capital if you have an innovative, impactful venture from an impact investor? I start off with some entrepreneurial experiences I had myself. This will be followed by explaining how the impact investing venture capital fund I work for right now is structured, functions, and we will deep dive into success stories from some of our portfolio companies. This will be followed by some takeaways for you. How can you raise capital from an impact investor? Please gather your questions at the end of the presentation. There will be space for asking questions. Also, you can find me later today. I will be here until the afternoon in the ADF area. There are also brochures of the investment fund I work for, so you can pick them up there. So if you do not have a chance to talk now, you can meet me there. One more thing for entrepreneurs over here in this space. At the end of my presentation, I will give one entrepreneur who is here right now, who is working on a venture, the possibility to do a 1-minute pitch over here on the stage. And I will give direct feedback as an impact investor, and you have the floor. So if you are working on something innovative and impactful, think about it for the upcoming 30 minutes if you want to be here or not. So why did I live for 2 years in Colombia? I founded Shoe, Sustainable You. It was a co-designed sneaker brand, based actually in Medellin, produced in Cali, and co-created with talent from Colombia. What we did was organize a creative talent conference in 2014 with all kinds of universities, design academies in Colombia, and we co-created this product. The shoes were made in Cali. All the products were sourced, all the materials were sourced from all over Colombia, and we co-designed with creative talent. The idea behind it is, first of all, to stimulate the local economy by working with only locals. Becoming a local brand, so believing in the strength of local production. Local for local is the future. No more super long shipments from all over the world, but try to produce as much as possible locally if there's an opportunity to it. And in Colombia there is huge opportunity for local production of shoes. There's much talent here. At the same time, we started exporting the shoes as well, so people could walk with products which were made in Colombia. That's also why it states at the back of the shoe, "Walk with us," and the Colombian flag, "Camina con nosotros." One of the things I liked most from this project was working with creative talent in Colombia. We had so many great copywriters, video makers, photographers involved in the project, and we collaborated in a great way to tell this story. One example, for example, is Jose Argotti from Pasto. He designed certain prints. He was one of the winners of the Creative Talent Conference. He, for example, designed the shoebox. Santiago made the pájaros print. I have one more example I want to show you. This was a collaboration with Pergamino. I don't know who of you from here is from Medellin, but it's one of my favorite coffee places over there. And we co-designed this coffee print together with them. Juanita, she designed poems which were in the shoes itself. So you can actually walk with stories from Colombia. And of course, we told a lot of stories about how about the process and about the people we work with. We really try to be a social venture as well, like really background checking the factories we were collaborating with, making sure that they had like well-paid people working there. It was a great time. I lived so greatly in your country. We managed to get a lot of media attention for it too. One of the first newspapers who believed in us was El Espectador. After 1 month, after we landed here, they wrote an article about the Creative Talent Conference, and that helped us to build the product and to launch it. Later on, we had national coverage, but also, in the US and in Europe, we got quite some attention. And usually the articles were not so much about the product, but it was more about venturing in Colombia and how great your country is and how many possibilities there are. One more thing I forgot to mention here. It looks all like a super positive story right now. But this project was put on hold. And you know why? Because our funding strategy was not structured in the right way. We were in the middle of a fundraising round, and a private equity fund who was co-financing the project together with a big impact investor bailed out last minute, and we had to stop it. It was so unfortunate because we want to replicate the shoe model in all kinds of other countries, and the entire team was ready for it, but because we didn't have the right funding strategy, we had to stop. It was my worst nightmare. But it happened. More about this later. Before I launched Shoe, I was involved in the Yacht Week. It had nothing to do with impact, but it was a fast-growing scale-up, making yachting accessible all across the world. You can book a yacht online with your friends, and you can sail in Croatia, British Virgin Islands, Italy, all over the world. We started with, 10 yachts, and it became thousands per year. It grew very rapidly. The big difference between Shoe and the Yacht Week was that Yacht Week didn't have external funding. So they were much more agile in difficult situations. You can imagine that when COVID hit, the Yacht Week, a travel company, was hit massively, but they were so agile that they could stand up again because they were not relying on external funding, and they managed to generate revenue at a super early stage. Last entrepreneurial story I want to tell you is that I'm the founder of Co-Financing Our Future. It's something I started recently, and it's a peer-to-peer platform for impact investors. What we try to do here is to bring together like-minded investors, banks, government, in order to talk about deal sharing. Because what I truly missed with Shoe, the sneaker brand, is that investors were collaborating. It's super important for founders, if you have investors who understand you, but also that they collaborate. If they don't, then you're going to ask too much of the founder to do the fundraising by him or herself, and it takes time away from the actual business and growing your venture. It's super nice to see that now we already co-financed a couple of deals together with the parties involved on the flyer you can see over here. And I think this could be working over here too. And that's what I'm saying to venture capital funds, government, impact investors, informal investors, private equity funds. It's super interesting to collaborate because there are so many advantages to it. You can do a due diligence together, you can invest together in multiple funding rounds, you have more knowledge. Think about that and help founders structure their company in the right way. So, from Shoe, before the Old Week and Co-Financing Our Future, I've been on the other side of the table. So entrepreneurs out here, I really know how you feel, what you've been through, raising capital, building your company. It's a lot on your mind, and it's great to do, but it asks a lot from you. Having been in the sustainability space with you, I got the opportunity to start working on the other side of the table as an investor, as an impact investor. And I started working for Dune Ventures. So, Dune Ventures is a true impact-first investor. If we make an exit or dividends get paid out, it's going to be put back in the fund and we reinvest it in other impact entrepreneurs who truly need it to grow their company. Our fund right now has 140 million euro under asset. We have a portfolio of around 80 companies. Our investment scope is from 100,000 euros up to 2 million. That's for direct investments. We do convertible loans as well. But we do fund to fund too. So we become an LP. After my presentation, there will be a panel discussion, and I believe that Rockstart is in there as well, managing director. So in the Netherlands, Rockstart also has a fund, and we are actually an LP in that fund. Our investment scope and focus is transitions, pure impact. So the transitions we focus on, because we can unfortunately not focus on everything, but we chose to focus on 4 things. The circular economy, sustainable energy, sustainable food systems, and social entrepreneurship and inclusion. I'm going to give a couple of examples in a bit, so you can relate with it a little bit more. I was talking about Shoe before, what I missed, patience from investors who shared the same vision. I can truly say that Dune is opposite, because the way we are structured, we do not have pressure to make an exit if we are a shareholder. And that's super important for innovation. All of you work on innovative topics, and I think we can all agree that innovation needs time. Sometimes you can be super early with innovation and the market is not ready yet, or there is not even a market. You have to create it. So, structure your company in a way that you have this time. And with Dune, we can do that because we have this evergreen structure. We are not a closed-end fund who needs to divest within 5 to 7 years. No, we can take time and make sure that the company can grow, even if it's going slower than expected. And this is super important in the end for innovation, because it gets killed if it doesn't have time. Why can we do this? This is something interesting and an interesting structure. We are Dune Ventures, but we are owned by the Dune Foundation, which is actually even financing innovation in the topics I just mentioned, but also in the creative space by means of subsidizing or soft loans. The foundation can do it because it gets supported by the Dutch postcode lottery. It's one of the biggest charity lotteries worldwide. Over the years, they generated more than 10 billion euros for charity all over the world. So they support the Red Cross, World Nature Fund, all these kind of initiatives. They're still in the top 3 of biggest donors worldwide. So for example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are also in this top 3. So because they set aside funds for the Dune Foundation, and Dune Foundation supports innovation at a super early stage when there's not even a business model yet. If talent is developing there rapidly, we can take it over with the venture fund and we can develop it. We act globally, but we have some focus areas. So we focus on Europe, Eastern Africa, and India, but we do global investments too. If you have an innovative idea around here and you think like the criteria apply to you, for sure, get in touch with me. My contact details will be here. We're always interested in new leads. And innovation can be anywhere, and we want to support entrepreneurs who are working on great things. So find me then. Graphical illustration of our portfolio. You can find a lot of different companies here. So, as I was saying, we have 18 investment funds. For example, Rockstar, I just mentioned. We have, funds being active all over the world. One super interesting fund I'm actually going to visit in Peru next week is called MDIF. It's a New York-based fund, and they invest in platforms for freedom of speech. Super important nowadays, especially what is going on in Eastern Europe at the moment. Well, if you want to know more about this portfolio, you can find more in the brochure over there or on our website. What we do try to do with our portfolio is to show our LP like how much impact we are making. So what is success for us? Is it making great exits and earn a lot of money? Yeah, on the one hand it is, because if we earn that money, we can reinvest it in other impact entrepreneurs. But we are truly managing our portfolio on impact, and that's also how we're structuring deals. So for example, you can see like all the KPIs we look at, how many jobs are there created, how much CO2 reduction is there, how many more circular materials are being created. That's how you could structure a fund and actually communicate about it in a way that you manage on impact and not only on financial yield. So, I want to give you a couple of examples of, from our portfolio. This is actually, I wanted to start with my favorite company out there right now, and it's called Fairphone. More than 10 years ago, Bas van Abel, he's a Dutch guy actually, came up with this crazy idea. All our mobile phones over here are thrown away after 2 years. Only 20% of the phones are being recycled. The rest is just thrown into the garbage. And that's crazy if you think about it. Because do you really need a new phone every 2 years? Do you really need that? Because do you know that in a phone there are so many scarce materials, like cobalt, like gold, like aluminium. And we're trashing the planet by having this behavior of only wanting to have new stuff. So he came up with a brilliant idea. He created a modular phone you can repair yourself. So if your screen is broken, or if your battery is broken, you can repair it yourself, and you don't have to throw it away. I actually have one here. This is the newest one, Fairphone 4. Their slogan is, change is in your hands. And that's exactly what they do. It's up to you. If you want to make a change and buy sustainable products, or you want to keep on going like you're doing right now. It's a phone which is good for people and good for the planet. I will show you the model over there at the IDF location as well, but it's super nice what they are doing. And they are truly changing the consumer electronics industry. And that's exactly what impact is. It's not only about being successful yourself, but it's also about inspiring other companies to do the same thing. And that's what they are doing. This company managed to become really successful. There are good investors behind it. They are selling over 100,000 phones per year, and they are growing. They will be available in the US shortly, and they have huge plans. In 2020, the Fairphone 3 was listed in Time magazine as one in the top 100 best inventions of that year. I think then you can truly say that you had a bold idea, you dared to go for it, and make an impact. Another success story from our portfolio, which is not there anymore, because we exited this company last year when they did a huge new funding round. It's called Ecovative. It's a New York-based scale-up. And Eben Bayer, the founder, came up with this idea also more than 10 years ago that our material use and meat consumption needs to change. And what could be a great solution? Mushrooms, fungi. And they are using mycelium to make alternatives for plastics, for meat. They have a great bacon actually developed, which actually tastes like bacon, but it's made of mushrooms. And leather replacements. So they have collaborations with PVH already to develop all kinds of materials. They managed to build a mycelium library with technology people can use all over the world to change the way we consume and change the fashion industry, for example. They even managed to grow a house out of fungi. Great innovation. Right now, you can imagine the last, well, let's say 3 years, this industry is picking up big time. But 10 to 15 years ago, when he started this, the market wasn't even there yet. Like, people didn't really understand. We had to support the company also a couple of times, when they really had to start and to convince people that this was going to be super interesting innovation and transition much needed for this planet. Actual, completely different, Amsterdam-based, but operating internationally. They make 3D printers for floors, circular floors. They make these floors for conferences, for airports, for example, but it's a fully circular floor, and it's 3D printed, so it's custom, and there's no waste. We actually believe a lot in 3D printing. Maybe you saw in our portfolio example that we invested in 3D hubs as well. The company was sold last year. It was a successful exit for us, but also a great venture. We also invested in MX3D, also interesting 3D printing. But what Actual is doing nice next to only 3D printing is applying circular materials, but they also trying to think in an innovative way. So they say, like, yeah, a floor, maybe you should not buy the floor, maybe we should have a product as a surface model for the floor, so that you actually not buy the floor, but you buy our service to have the floor. So every 5 years we come, take it out, recycle it, and you can have a new one. It's an interesting way of thinking about ownership, because then Actual actually owns the floor, and they are responsible for taking it back and making it circular. Light and jar. How important for the world is it going to be if we can fly electrically, right? No fossil fuels anymore. Well, this is one of the startups really trying to make that happen, because what they do is trying to make batteries more efficient. They use silicon, they make anodes from 100% silicium. And that's super innovative, and it makes batteries more efficient. Why I mention them is because I think they have a great strategy of fundraising, because they managed to get venture capital in, but also governmental money and a lot of budget from the European Union to develop it. So that's, I think, also crucial for innovation is, I mentioned it before, but that you have the right funding behind it and you have time to develop it. This company is not making revenue yet, but they're working on something really important. Nuventura. Completely different story. This company produces switch boxes for electricity in your company building, or in your own house actually. Switchgear. What the founder of this company realized when he was working for a competitor before is that one thing is super polluting from switch gear, and that's FS6 gas. It's 23,000 times more polluting than CO2. But what was the industry doing at that time? They were lobbying with governments not to say anything about it, and they were not even solving the problem. Short-term thinking. So, this founder said, okay, I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to make this switchgear, but then we're not using this gas. And he managed to succeed. Right now, there's European legislation coming up that it's forbidden to use this gas. So, it was already an existing market, but he dared to take a risk, and he's successful. Bananas. I mentioned this because there are a lot of bananas, I think, coming from Colombia, right? So, this is a great startup founded by 2 female founders we recently invested in. And they work with bananas who get into the port in Rotterdam and are just thrown away. If there are just little spots on it, they throw it away. And that's such a shame, because you can still make nice products from it. Banana bread, if you purify the bananas, or, for example, granola. So that's exactly what they're doing. The crazy thing is that legislation in the Netherlands right now makes it more interesting to put, well, bananas which are not completely ripe anymore to waste than to give them a second life. So the taxation for waste is lower than for giving a product a second life. That's crazy, right? That's absolutely crazy. And that's why governments are sometimes lagging behind. I mean, innovation is going fast, so we have to work with them on making these legislation changes more rapidly, but it's happening, and sometimes you're facing these kind of things. Another circular example, oranges. I guess everybody likes orange juice. Well, this company makes oranges fully circular, because they work with the peel from oranges. I mean, if you squeeze your orange, throw away your peel, maybe it's recycled. But wait, what they do is use it to the fullest. So they extract materials from the peel, and they make different products from it. For example, for cosmetics, coloring, it's high-tech technology they are developing, and the factory is already working. They're doing really well, and they collaborate with all kinds of lifestyle products already, and they get the peel from supermarkets all over the Netherlands. What they want to do is to make a turnkey factory they can sell everywhere. So maybe they put one in Colombia too. But it's a simple product, making it circular, and they are on their way of doing it. Mud jeans. I should have been wearing it today, the Mud jeans, because it's a circular jeans brand, but it was so hot today that I decided to wear this pants. But it's my favorite jeans brand. Why? Because it's 99% recycled materials they use. And they are already in the market for a long time. So a lot of jeans brands were not doing it, and now you see that they're working more and more on recycled, but then they say it's 50% recycled, for example. They are already doing 99% recycled. And it's a great company. It's a great founder too. And why I mention them also is that they think out of the box. So they are not just a jeans brand. They also have a lease a jeans strategy. So you do not have to own the jeans, but you can actually lease it. You pay an amount per month. And whenever you want to change it, you can change it again. It's an interesting way of not owning it, but actually the company still owning the jeans. So also the company is responsible for recycling. Closed loop. What they also managed to do really well is collaborations. For example, with IKEA, you can see over here that they have a collaboration with IKEA, one of their most popular couches. It's called the Billy. I heard that IKEA is coming to Colombia too, so maybe you don't know the Billy couch yet, but in Europe it's already very popular. And they have one edition with mud jeans. So you can imagine that for them, for the scalability and visibility, it's a super important collaboration. This summer they're going to launch a collaboration with the Van Gogh Museum and Van Gogh paintings on the jeans. So they really try to think in collaboration, how can I reach certain audiences in order to tell my story the right way. Social entrepreneurship. This company is called Specialisteren, which in Dutch means special stars. Why is it called like this? Because they work with people who score high on the autistic spectrum. This founder had a son with autism, and he found out that he was a very good programmer and coder for software. So he thought, how can I create a company where my son's strength is fully focused on and he can shine? So he created this company to test software, and he only hired people who score high on the autistic spectrum. And they did super well. They got acquired last year by a bigger company from Norway who was kind of doing the same thing. Great work from this founder. Last example of today is Sepje. Super simple product. It's soap to wash your hands. Well, in COVID times, super important. But they also make washing powder or washing liquid actually. No more plastics. You know that every washing you do, there are like 2 plastic bags in every washing. Did you know that? What they do is they import nuts from Nepal. You can actually see it in the packaging. And these nuts have like certain features which make your washing sustainable. And they are pushing this brand in supermarkets. They're selling it quite well right now already in other European countries too. And it's just so simple what they're doing, but they're pushing this message all across Europe now and hopefully soon the world. And it's so nice. And why I mention this example right now is because 3 weeks ago they did something brilliant, in my opinion. They put a big advertisement in one of the leading Dutch newspapers, and they said, hey, Unilever and Procter & Gamble, why are you still using fossil fuels in your liquids? This is our recipe. They gave the full recipe of how they work. You can do this too. If you want to talk with us, this is our address. I think that was such a brilliant move because, yeah, I mean, a lot of people, corporates, are sometimes hiding because, and they set ambitions, well, we're going to be sustainable in 20 or 30 years, but there are companies already doing it. So there's no reason for it. Why not accelerate? So they did great there. The takeaways of my presentation. If you build a venture, I think it's not only in the impact space, but really focus on diversity. Diverse teams are key. With our fund, we also look straight away to the funding team. Look at diversity in background, gender, skills. It's so important, and you can only do it right once. And if you maybe have not a diverse team yet, then assess it and hire the right people to have a diverse team. It's very important. And more investors are looking at it. Obviously, you need to have a clear vision. What problem is your product or service actually solving? Is there a target audience, or do you still need to create it? Is there a market, and is it sizable, or do you need to create the market? I just gave some examples of skillful entrepreneurs who dared to challenge an existing market. An existing market can be challenged, so don't be afraid to do it. Find the right investors who are by your side and go and do it. But high impact and transition is usually coming from markets which are not even there yet. You have to create it yourself. So there's not much data at hand. And that's sometimes challenging, because a lot of investors always ask for data, right? It can be annoying sometimes. So if you don't have that data, because you don't have the record yet with your company, then make sure you own the topic of the impact you're going to make. There's a lot of other data out there, so make sure if you talk with investors that you own that data and take them by your hand. If you're still starting, but maybe if you're a little bit further along already, why not integrate impact if you haven't done it yet? Even if you have already a circular model, why not include social innovation, for example? There are a lot of possibilities on how you can combine multiple ways of impact. Measure the impact you are making. Define KPIs, key performing indicators. Integrate them already in your term sheets, in the transaction documentation you have. That's where you will find out if the investors you collaborate with are really understanding what you're trying to do. It's not only the profit you're going to make or the revenue growth, it's also the impact goals you set at that time, and you can perform well by achieving them. If you have investors who understand that, that's the people you should talk to. And also, if you communicate about these impact KPIs regularly, you can really take along your consumer base and your followers, your stakeholders with you, because you can say like, hey guys, we managed to create this many jobs, or we managed to recycle that many products. That's what people want to hear. It's not all about profit and growth. Shown some examples too. Impact and commercial success can go hand in hand. I mean, it's such an interesting industry, and you've seen like most of these companies have been profitable at some point, and they're growing really rapidly right now. It's possible to combine it. Structure the company the right way if you work with multiple investing rounds. Consider steward ownership, for example. So in the beginning, do not use too much equity maybe, but structure it with loans or grants or subsidies, so you have time to develop it, and then later on work with equity. And if you do work with equity, make sure as a founder you still have a significant stake, right? It's important that you do not dilute too much in the beginning, because then later on you will get problems finding the right investors in a Series A, B, or at a later stage. So make sure you fight for your own rights. Steward ownership is now a super important development, we think. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's a different way of structuring your company. And you actually detach shareholders from the voting power in the daily business of the company. Because sometimes those are not fully aligned. So what you do is still you can have shareholders and they have an economic stake in it, but you have management who could truly focus on the impact of the company and the performance on the company, and they don't have to deal with shareholders all the time. It's a super interesting and growing community. So check it out. Right financial instruments at the right time. Plan everything very well and make sure you talk with the right people who share your vision. likely-minded investors are out there. So my final words, the time is now to build something nice. Trust your journey. Trust your gut. Enjoy the ride, and the future is waiting for your sustainable ventures. So, thank you so much for your attention, and let's connect. I said it at the introduction of the meeting. Who wants to pitch? Is there anybody who wants and dares to do a 1-minute pitch here? If not, we go to the questions. Is there somebody over there?
Hola. Recuerden que Merijn va a estar en nuestro stand ADF para que los que se quieran conectar, hablar un poco más, estará allí al lado de la mesa de ping-pong.
Hola. Merijn, nice to meet you. Great, a female founder. Applause.
En español, ¿no?
Perfect. Okay, so we're starting now.
Okay. Bueno, les cuento que el boom de la reventa ha revolucionado la industria de la moda. Según las cifras de TradeUp, el mercado de segunda mano va a sobrepasar casi el doble de la moda rápida para el 2025. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Vanessa Báez Morales, especialista en marketing digital. Soy una apasionada por la moda y por eso con mi equipo creamos Tu Ropero. Es una plataforma... esto es muy difícil.
No, está bien, muy bien.
Es una plataforma dedicada para la compra y venta de ropa de segunda mano, donde nuestros usuarios se pueden inscribir, registrarse de una forma rápida y vender todas sus prendas. Nosotros como valor agregado en el mercado hacemos que todas las prendas pasen por un proceso de curaduría y asimismo un proceso de lavado de desinfección antes de llegarle a nuestro comprador. Bueno, antes de llegarle al comprador, y de esta manera garantizamos el segundo uso de esas prendas. También Tu Ropero busca crear espacios de concientización para que esas personas que tienen creencias limitadas al usar ropa de segunda mano las puedan ir dejando y crear hábitos de consumo más conscientes. Entonces, para todas las personas que quieran ser parte de este cambio, los invito a visitarnos en nuestro sitio web www.turropero.com.co y seguirnos en redes sociales como @turroperocol. Pero me siguen. Ay, sí, necesito mi plata.
Thank you so much.
Bueno, thank you.
The pitch was so good that I'm still processing it. So maybe we can change it around a little bit, that before you ask questions to me, maybe there are questions from the audience for her.
Recomendación. Me faltó la plata. Bueno, nada, estoy buscando mi inversión para potencializar nuestra plataforma web y crear la aplicación ya para nosotros. Esperamos que en 5 años tengamos aproximadamente 14.800 usuarios registrados con ventas promedio del 40% de efectividad y esto nos va a llevar a 235 millones de pesos trimestrales en ese año. Entonces,
Great.
Me siguen todos.
So let's discuss after. I will ask you some questions over there, but I think platform, internet technology is always, it's super scalable, and you already have users, so that's great. Those are metrics investors are looking at, definitely.
Thank you very much.
And well, please find her
Follow me.
later today as well. Thank you so much for your pitch.
Gracias.
Muy.
Okay, so now you have the opportunity to ask me some questions. As I was saying, you can find me later too, or if you think you have an interesting venture for Shoe and you're working on something nice, you can always email me. But other questions?
I have some questions, Merijn.
I was looking for you.
We were going to do this with the regular mic, but then we realized it was going to be very weird for me, so we just changed your switch to this. Merijn, thank you very, very much. It was definitely very, very inspiring. There's a couple of questions here. I hope we can go over some of them. The first one, you mentioned in your presentation, you said it verbatim, it's not only about being successful, it's about inspiring others. Now, this isn't something extremely new. This comes from why or having purpose on your business, etc. But what some people is asking is, could you explain to us what is exactly the mechanism through which that inspiration, that value, that sustainability becomes real monetary value for VC funds and for the entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a good question, I think. I think sometimes that's not monetized. Maybe for us it is, because in the end, well, it's visibility for our fund, and you could say that you have been the industry changer, and I think you can monetize that because you can always use that, well, in media, in advertising, you know, you can always make that claim. I changed the industry. I was the one to do it first. So I think that claim already is, well, super important. Secondly, you can convince a VC or some kind of other investors with those facts because you are, well, the first mover in that space, right? You're changing the industry. I gave the example of Nuventura, of the gas, or not using that gas anymore. They are the first one now doing it. So forever they can, first of all, make that claim. And second of all, they have experience with building it. So they have the technology already to do it. So if you approach the investor then at the right time, you can use those facts in your advantage.
Okay, awesome. The second question, it comes actually from Andrés Raigosa, which is the director of the Chamber of Entrepreneur in ANDI.
Uh-oh.
And this is very specific. It's about creating the market to give traction to sustainable businesses. So in general terms, it is, how would you create scenarios where consumers become more aware of the importance of buying this type of product so that creates the traction for the businesses that are within the sustainability sector?
Yeah, it has to do with multiple things. I think there's not one solution to it. I think we were talking about before about collaboration. I think collaboration is key. On the one hand, you have consumer behavior, right? So we can all make a change already, becoming vegetarian or, well, do not throw your phone away after 2 years. But I mean, that's the impact you can make yourself. You can buy sustainable product and background check these kind of things. But at the same time, government needs to step in too, to tax polluting products more or forbid them actually from being imported. So it works both ways. You cannot expect from a consumer if a polluting product is so much more cheap than a sustainable product. If you do not have deep pockets yourself, then you cannot expect from a consumer to actually buy that, well, sustainable product, right? Because you will run out of money soon. So it goes both ways. I think it's a responsibility from capital in general. So banks, VCs, well, informal investors is to focus on these impactful innovation, well, innovative initiatives, and the money should flow to them. That makes it possible to make the prices accessible for everyone, and that's when the change will come.
You said it at the end. It ends up about solving a problem. If it's a big problem, it creates the solution, and the money will flow. That's what you're saying. Yeah,
but it's a collaboration in the end. It's a joint responsibility.
Awesome, and this is the last question. And it's very specific for the Colombian context. I mean, we hear it all the time. We live in the most diverse country in the world. There is sustainability aroma everywhere. Like that's on everything, on every event you go. But the specific question is, even though it is spoken a lot about the Colombian biodiversity and sustainability and others, social responsibility, etc., how important really is this competitive advantage? Like, do we really have an advantage based on the context that we're in? And the following question about that is, are we really using that advantage, if there is one, on our favor to put Colombia like in a great context of entrepreneur about sustainability?
Well, do we have half an hour to answer this question? I mean, well, maybe I'm biased because I am just in love with your country and culture, but also work ethics. I mean, yes, I totally agree after having lived here 2 years, and I have quite some Colombian friends who are working on great things. I think there's so much potential here, and I think there are a lot of instruments there also to become successful across borders. But maybe I'm repeating myself, but some things takes time. So you need to create the right conditions in order for innovative entrepreneurs who are sitting here to grow. So the capital should be there, the confidence should be there. Well, one step before that, the education should be there. And my experience is that all of those elements are there. And now it's a matter of faith from the government in entrepreneurs, making it easy for them to, tell their story nationally, internationally, support it with the right financial instruments. So I definitely think with all the characteristics of Colombia that there is so much potential, and I truly believe in your country, 100%. I will not be surprised I will be living there one day again, because I see a lot of opportunities here, and I love to collaborate with talent over here, for sure. So I think there is a bright future for entrepreneurs. I think one thing what is not so much attention point for Colombia, but I think international investors, foundations from all over the world could look into opportunities over here even more. I think like the venture capital industry in Colombia is developing, but I think more capital should be able to flow to innovation over here to make that next step.
That was definitely the perfect ending. Thank you very much, Merijn, for being here. Welcome every time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.